Hey guys, I'm Amy, and today I am putting together another video about wicker. I've done a couple other videos about wicker and rattan, which has been really popular lately, and the question I wanted to answer today on this video is if you have a piece of wicker or rattan that has been painted or isn't that light natural color of wicker that you like, or if it had that original white shiny factory finish, is there any way to get that natural lighter brown wicker look that is so popular right now? So stay tuned, we're going to see what we can do. So our victim for today's experiment is a little plant stand that I went and picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. It had initially been a darker brown little wicker or rattan piece, but someone had painted it white, which was pretty cute. It wasn't bad looking, but what I was trying to learn from this experiment was if we could get something to look like the original natural golden tan color, a little bit even lighter than this originally was. So I decided that I was going to paint it back and see if we could get a nice lighter tan wicker look with what we were doing here. So let's give it a try. For any of you who watch Jamie and Sarah's YouTube channel, which is a great channel, they do a lot of furniture flipping content along with a lot of other good content about how to work for yourself, be your own boss, have a living outside a normal 9-to-5 job. So you should check it out if you haven't seen that channel. But one thing that Sarah has done is she has taken furniture that she wanted to flip and painted the wicker into a natural color with a spray paint that she said her sister turned her on to using. And so I got some of that. It is called Rust-oleum, Nutmeg, Satin. I went and got some of this, and I also got anything else I could find that was close to see if there was something that I thought even in another brand that would work better. But this is what Sarah has recommended on her channel, and for those of you who want to do the simplest thing, that one step and get it done, this is the way to go. And so you can watch her video, I'll link it below, or you can stop the video here if that's all you want to do. This is a pretty good solution. What I wanted to find out was if you're a painter, if you want to do a next step and make it look really more like real wicker if you can, what else would you need to do? So that's what we're going to answer in the rest of this video. But the place to start, and I do agree after trying several different things that this is the place to start with this nutmeg, and it's got 2 times coverage, and so it really will cover down into the cracks. If you have one that has that white shiny factory finish, this will get all the way down on it and cover it, and it's going to be less shiny because you don't want that super high gloss finish. That won't make it look natural. So this is a satin, it's not as shiny, and it's not even as shiny as the other satin ones that I tried. Because this has the primer and the paint mixed together, it's a little bit flatter, and that's a good thing. It's not quite as shiny. You don't want to use a super flat paint because it gets dirty really easily, and a little bit of sheen is going to help you, but you don't want too much if you want it to look like natural wicker or rattan. I decided that I was going to experiment with the 2 colors that seemed the closest to what I was trying to do. One was the Nutmeg Primer Plus Paint that I talked about by Rust-oleum. The other one was called French Beige, and it was also satin, but it was a lighter color. Now on the cap of the can, it looked like it was a similar kind of tan khaki color to the other one. But when I started spraying it, it was very light. Beige really is the applicable word there. It really is a beige color. It wasn't khaki enough in the end to be exactly what I was trying to find for something that was going to be wicker or rattan. But I went ahead and painted half of each side on the top so that I could experiment with adding in a wash of a couple different colors, a thin down black and a thin down brown that I could just water down and wipe over the top and then wipe it back so that it would go down into the cracks. And my thinking was that might be how we would get it to look more like real wicker with the highlights and lowlights, the lights and darks, and we would see from there. But here's a little more footage of me experimenting with that so that you can kind of see how it turned out and what that looked like. I'll do all the experimenting so you can not have to try it yourself or buy this many products. So the upper left quadrant is the beige color with some brown washed into it, but it's still just too light. The color underneath that is a black wash on the lower left quadrant. The lower right quadrant is a black wash over the nutmeg, and above that I decided to dry brush some yellow paint on top of the nutmeg, and I honestly felt like that was a little closer to what I was looking for because all the other ones, darkening it seemed to make it too flat and dull. So in the end I went back to my computer and I started searching pictures of wicker and rattan to see what they had in common that I was missing, and what I felt like I was missing was this golden warmth, not orangey or reddish, but a nice beautiful light golden feeling that I didn't have in any of the pieces I was experimenting with. So I had to rethink my plan, and here's what we did. In the end, I decided that I was going to have to change the color of the highlights, not the color of the lowlights, because I needed to get a wicker that was more of a warm golden color than what I could find in any of the spray paints. I decided what I was going to have to do was add in the top highlight lighter color rather than adding in the darker color that would go into the cracks and the shadows and the depths. So plan 2 was to try to find the highlight color instead of the lowlight color or the shadow color. With that decided, I was ready to go back in, respray the entire little cabinet in the nutmeg color. I had decided I was committed to that as my background color, and so I painted the whole thing all over with the nutmeg. This covered great because it does have the 2 times coverage. It's got the primer added, and so it costs a little more than the regular satin, but I think it's worth it in the end because you end up not having to use as much because it is very good coverage, and especially if you're going over something with a shiny factory finish, you're going to want that good coverage in the end. So I painted the whole thing with nutmeg. When I was finished, it looked not bad, but I felt like it was a little bit dark and dull and flat. And so I decided I did want to try to brighten and warm it up a little bit. I'll show you the shot of what it looked like when it was finished. Here it is in my kitchen, and it's honestly so hard to get really true color on video. In this light, it looks a little darker than it really reads in person. And then when I pan up from above and shoot it, it's being washed out with a lot of light from the windows. And so in this case, that's quite a bit lighter than it looks in person. If it actually looked this color in person, I'd probably be pretty happy with that, just with one type of paint. That's a pretty good color. But in real life, it's quite a bit flatter and darker than that. And so I did want to keep trying to see if we could do a little better. Now this time, instead of watering my paint down into a liquid that was a wash that would go down into the cracks, I kept it full strength, thicker, because I wanted it this time to just skim across the top and stay on top of the highest points of the wicker instead of sinking down into the cracks. So I used this color called Fawn that was a light golden brown, and with my brush dry, I didn't dip it in water, then I just dipped it in the paint full strength, and then I applied it with a real light touch in long quick strokes to just skim across all the highest points of the wicker so that it would only be attaching to the highlights and the places that were sticking out, and then the parts in the cracks would still stay in shadow and still stay darker. I liked the way this was working, and I felt like it was fairly easy to do, but I decided I also wanted to try and figure out if there was an easier way for anyone who's not comfortable with a paintbrush or hasn't spent as much time with one as I have. So what I did was get a sponge and paint full strength onto the sponge, and then I patted the sponge down onto, I just tapped it onto the top surfaces. So again, the paint would be sitting up on top on the highest points and not going down into the cracks and crevices. This worked pretty well, and I felt like it was a very easy way to do it. So after doing it on the top a little bit there across the front half, I also decided to try it along the back to see how it would look on flatter parts or on parts that were curved or other areas besides just the tabletop portion of this little planter. And what I found out was that it worked pretty well. It has a little more texture showing up. You get a little of that spongy texture when you do it on a flat piece, like that little trim work that goes across, but it worked pretty well, and I think this would be a very easy way to do this for someone who's not that comfortable with a paintbrush or doesn't want to have to buy all those things. Here you can see the front half of the planter was done with the sponge with the yellow. That back part is the original nutmeg without anything added. And then here in the back you can see a little bit of the texture that shows up from the sponge when I just sponged it across the back. But I think that doesn't look bad. So that's an option for someone who wants to find a real easy way to do it. Yeah, and then it was just a matter of finishing out the whole thing in that same method. Doing this on Benny Hill freak out fast speed for you so you don't have to watch the whole thing, but it really was a quick process. And when it was done, I felt like it had that warmer, brighter, yellow, golden look, and I liked it a lot. Okay guys, here's what it looked like when I finished. It's a pretty subtle difference, but it really does, to me, look more like true wicker because it has that warm, yellow golden vibe, and I could not find that exact color in any spray paint that I looked at in the stores. And the Nutmeg definitely was the closest color, and because it has a little sheen, you do get some highlights from it, so it's not a bad way to go. If you want one-step solution, I would recommend that all the way. If you want to take it the next step to make it really look like it could be mistaken for something that is already a natural wicker or rattan color, then I would add in some of those highlights with the color Fawn or something very close to that, a warm golden brown that's a light color. Okay, I hope that was helpful, was of interest to you. Any of you who are painters out there or love to do projects like this. I had fun with this, and now I've got my little plant stand for the bohemian living room that I'm working on. We had a flood last February, almost a year ago, and I'm still kind of getting everything back into our house the way it used to be, and so we're redoing the living room, and I'll probably make another video of that. So be sure and click subscribe if you're interested in things like decor, painting, furniture, painting and furniture flipping. I would love for you to join me when I upload more videos. Take care.